In August, I went to visit my best friend in Rochester. He was at his grandfather's house, which is a place where he used to play a lot when he grew up. And his grandfather owned some land around the house, and so he was showing my best friend was showing myself and his wife around the property, all the different places he used to play. And he, just like I, grew up with a very fantasy mindset. So he was showing us this little hill, which of course when you're a little kid it looks like a much bigger hill, but it was like the barrow of the Goblin King and what have you. And that gave me the idea to show you where I grew up and played D&D, kind of. We'll flip around real quick. I'm going to try as much as possible to not get my shadow in the shot, just because it's annoying, rather than you can figure out what I look like. So this, I guess we'll come back over here. I'll show you from the corner. I also figured out last time that my video camera cuts off after 10 minutes, regardless of whether it's reached capacity on the memory card. All right, so here's a power box. And then here, which you can kind of see, is the water retention basin by my house. It is now much bigger than it was when I was a kid. They widened it and made it larger. And they added extra to it, but we'll go ahead and head down here. It's all dirt road all around it. And what happens is, like, here's the road behind us. And it is filled, when it rains, it tends to flood in Arizona. The ground is too hard and packed. It doesn't absorb water. It's not good soil that way. And this road, the center of it used to flood with water that reached up past my ankle when I was a kid. So probably not too high compared now, but back then it seemed like a major flood. And what they did was they added these drains down the center of the street. The street is angled the whole way, so the water all collects in the middle rather than at the edges. So the water comes down, goes through this little drain, and then it also heads into this big drain. And there's another one further down the road. And then that leads over to here. Let's head down this way. I'm also having trouble breathing through my nose right now. I forgot to take my antihistamine this morning. And in Arizona, it's nice and bright and sunny and actually windy, and the wind is pulling up all the pollen. So as you head down into this basin, you've got all these rocks on the side. Makes it kind of dangerous. I'm wearing sandals because I'm a freaking idiot. Should have put on my tennis shoes or something for this. All right, come on, let's go down. It's not, I mean, these are pretty big rocks. It's not gravel. These are golf ball sized, a little bit larger than that. But yeah, you step on them and they all move. All right, so here we are down in the bottom, and I just heard a bug or a bird or something. Oh, yeah, it's a grasshopper. Okay. So now we are down into the retention basin, and we used to play sort of live action D&D here. We weren't LARPing so much. We were little kids who didn't know how to play D&D, but we had read the books, and so we knew about, you know, orcs and goblins and druids and wizards and trolls and caves and dungeons and traps and piles of treasure and magic swords. And so here we go. This, by the way, is exactly what I think of when I think of a cave. You got a hill above it, and then just in the side of the hill, there's a little recess that leads down into a hole, a big dark tunnel. And it echoes. Let me see if I can get that on camera. Echo! Yeah, you probably aren't hearing that. The camera doesn't have a very great microphone. So we used to come down into this basin, and when we first came down here, this, I believe, was here. And so this was the cave. But this was the low-level cave, because we would come down from up here, and then here's the cave immediately. So this is obviously where you go as a first-level adventurer. Then you get down here, and because this is a water retention basin, a lot of water would come in here after it rains. It rained 3 nights ago now. And I came down here to record the other day, and it was really nice because there were huge puddles of water everywhere. But they've dried up. So you come down here and you see how here the ground is lighter colored. Here it's darker colored because of the water. This is sort of like the starting out marshland. And then you'd head over here. And again, it's a little bit dry. And as a kid, the distances, I mean, I can move from one end to the other in 3 steps. It was 6 steps as a kid, so that was more substantial difference. Here's the really dark ground. This is the low part of the entire basin where all the water ends up. And you can see there's green clover. Let me go ahead and go down a bit. Yeah, see, green clover. So this was the swamp over here. You never actually went into the swamp because then you'd get mud on your shoes and your mom would kill you. But that's the swamp. And then over here, and again, I mean, this basin wasn't that big when I was a kid. They really made it larger. And the reason why they made it larger is because when I was a kid, the basin would actually fill up with like a foot or 2 of water. And they didn't want to have a big, fetid swamp down here. So they made it larger. The water spreads out more. You don't end up with that. But over here, it's where it's really dry and there's not much on the ground. Like over there, you can see the bright bare patch. And here, there's a bunch of dead grass, like right here. This is the plains. This is where you'd meet like wemmicks and lions and other plain-dwelling creatures. Like my brother in the summer, not the summer actually, like in the spring and the fall, these grasses through here aren't dead and brown. They're actually green, which is nice. Kind of like, let's go with this one, how this grass is green. Yay, green grass. And my brother created a creature called the grass runner based on, and I'm going to probably butcher his name, but I think it was Marf, maybe? The little bard guy from Record of Lodoss War. I think he's even called a grass runner in the series. So my brother made him a D&D creature so that he could play as a grass runner. And then we continue on. Oh boy, I'm already at 7 minutes. Don't have too long, so let's kick it into high gear. Over here is the newer area of the retention basin that they hollowed out. And not that you can, well, let's see if I can zoom in. Zoom, no. All right, you see that? Maybe it's kind of blurry. There's a big dirt ramp over there. It's different than just the sloped sides covered in rocks like this. And that is where the trucks used to come down when they were doing the work. They'd come down, load up a bunch of dirt, haul it off. And it was much nicer to have a ramp of a more gradual slope and then not cover it with gravel so the trucks would slide down it. All right, so we come around here and they added a drain out on the main road, which is just up over this hill. There, you can probably barely see the cars. The main road is over there. And here is the high-level swamp area. This is the second low-level area. And by low level, I mean the ground level. And look at these little burrs. When these things dry up, they stick to your clothes. Little jerk faces. Now that makes me glad I'm not wearing socks or anything, because now I don't have to worry about it. But you can see lots of clover. This one, however, you couldn't go in the cave because the cave is too small. I mean, look at the size of that newspaper compared to the cave entrance. You can't get in there. So this was an entirely outward area. You never went into the cave. You would just adventure out in the swampland. Apparently there's some garbage down here too. You know, usually it's not dirty down here. I mean, there's a couple pieces, like there's a bottle, and over there's a bag. But most of the time, people don't use this as a dumping ground, which is really nice, because you can come in here still as a kid and not have to worry about broken glass and beer bottles and needles and all kinds of stuff. All right, we only have a moment left. I wish I could breathe through my nose. Ooh, that didn't feel good. And over here is, you can see it way off in the distance. It's much closer in real life. The high-level cave area. And this is the drain on this side. Now this drain actually, I believe it doesn't connect to a drain up above. It actually connects over to the other retention basin. There's another one up over this hill. And I'm going to probably have to do a different video for that. So I'm going to stop here and then restart.